Hi, I'm Dana, and for quite a while now I've wanted to make videos about like weight and body positivity and weight loss, because for anyone that hasn't been around a while, I used to be a size 24 in the UK and now I'm somewhere around a size 12, sometimes a 14, sometimes a little bigger. I'm trying very hard to not be bothered. And obviously I know there's lots of people where our bodies have changed through time, or we've been fat, or we've been skinny, or we've been this, or we've been that. I know that I'm not like the only person to have experienced this, but I do think it's given me some like experiences and some views of the world that people who haven't been in the same situation wouldn't have ever noticed or experienced. And I wanted to talk about some of them today. And I started off with this being like a huge topic that I wanted to talk about and get everything in, but I want to narrow it down a bit and sort of specifically talk about pretty privilege. And please also bear in mind, this isn't scripted. I don't even have notes for this. This is all just coming out as it comes out. I have very little perception of what I look like, to be honest with you. Am I pretty? Am I ugly? I don't really know. And I'm not that bothered. I'm just trying to live my life and have a good time. But to general society for a long time, regardless of how my face looks, regardless of my bone structure or my hair or what clothes I wore or what makeup I wore, regardless of essentially how I actually looked, I was very much immediately assumed and put into the category of ugly just because I was fat. And it's really shitty. And I'm using fat purely as a descriptor here. I know it can be a bit uncomfortable to see a skinny girl calling someone fat, but I'm purely using it as a descriptor of my past self, and I do not put anything negative to the term anymore. Just, I was fat and now I'm not. It's not that big a deal. But it means that for a long time, because I grew up fat and I was a fat teenager, and it was only when I was like probably around 20, 21 that I started off sort of losing weight. Like my life situation changed, I was a bit happier, I was moving around more and I lost weight. But, you know, that's been a very small part of my life. A very small part of my life has been being someone who's like can fit into the straight size clothes in stores and doesn't have a hard time finding things to wear. And for me, there was sort of a few months part way while I was like still losing weight. I wasn't where I am now, and obviously I wasn't intentionally doing it, so I didn't have like my end goal in sight or whatever. I was just smaller than I had been in a very long time. And I noticed all of a sudden, people are nicer. People are nicer to you. Like literally even people that I knew like relatively well, people that were in the same building I was working in at the time, they were nicer to me when they like saw me in the corridors and hallways or out having a smoke or whatever. You know, like when I was just spotted out and around to these people that vaguely knew me, they were nicer to me than they had ever been before. And it wasn't because I was suddenly nicer to them. It wasn't because I was suddenly some extroverted person that was able to socialise and let them get to know me. It was purely because I was skinnier. Like, that's all it fucking was. Like, the place that I was working at that point was quite physical. I think that's where a lot of my weight loss came from, honestly. I was just moving around more than I ever had before. And it very much felt like that was the point when people realised I actually did something. You know, they had to see the evidence of my body physically changing to, like, be aware that I was there and actually doing shit. It was what it felt like. You know, I don't want to say that is for sure what they were thinking or feeling, but that was absolutely how it felt for me. And because of that, I then started thinking about more things. And I was like, yo, it's been a really long time since I've been eating out somewhere and had somewhat stranger randomly comment on my food or body. It's been a while since that happened. It's been a while since any men have shouted things out of cars at me. It's been a while since any taxi drivers or like just random people that really don't need to have pulled me up to ask how much I weigh or whatever. And it was bizarre because I had always very much like, I hadn't always been aware of what pretty privilege was, but I think anyone that was like not in the popular crowd in school, you will have like looked at the pretty popular girls and be like, oh, people like them because they're like pretty, they're hot or whatever. You know, I put so much on like, oh, if I was pretty, people would like me. If I was skinny, people would like me. If I was this and if I was that. And it was honestly kind of horrible to realise that that's at least a little bit true. You know, lots of people don't give a fuck about your weight. Lots of people couldn't care less if you're really fat or really skinny or whatever else. They're just talking to you and they're going to pick up on what kind of person you are. And they'll be nice to you or not based on that. But there's also plenty of people that will look at you as a fat person and make all sorts of untrue assumptions. And before they even, like, if they even bother at all to speak to you and learn who you are as a person, they've already made their mind up that they don't like you. And as I say, that's not every scenario. There's plenty of times that I've been disliked because I fucked up, you know? There's plenty of times I've been disliked because I was dislikable. And other times, I've wondered, why do these people not like me? And quite frankly, there's been at least a few times where it was because I was fat. You know, I'd later hear them make a comment about someone else or a comment about a celebrity or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, you hate fat people. You don't hate like me. You just hate that I'm a fat person. And that fucking sucks. And I think one of the big things that I've never seen anyone talk about when it comes to weight loss is the amount of times it runs through my head of like, would this thing still happen, or would this person still like me, or whatever? Like, would this still be the way that it is now if I was still fat? And I've had this thought, especially when it comes to YouTube, because I've been on YouTube now like 13 years altogether, longer than I should have been. And it's only the last year that I've actually started being able to gain followers. And, you know, I can put a lot more into that. It's also only the last year that I've actually found a niche to create content of. I think it's only really the last year that I've been able to create content that I'm genuinely passionate about. You know, there are other things to it. You know, and it's not me wondering, did I not get followers then because I was fat? It's me wondering, if I was doing this now, doing the exact same content I am, saying the same words, you know, doing everything exactly the same, but as a size 24, would you still have followed me? Would enough people have subscribed to me that YouTube even bothered pushing my videos the slight degree that they do? You know, would people on Reddit have clicked on my videos, which gave me like the initial boost to like have people actually start following me on here? You know, and like, I don't want to shit on my girlfriend at all, because I do honestly believe that she would have done. But when we first got together and I didn't know her as well, I very much had the question of like, would she still have swiped me if I was fat though? Like, would she have? Would she still have like seen my outfits and seen like my face or whatever and thought like, oh yeah, she's cute? Or like, as I say, this was when I first got my girlfriend. I know she's not that kind of person now. But if they were, would they have still swiped if I was fat, you know? It's a question. I think it's a perfectly valid question. And I think it's a difficult one to shame people for, because we live in such like a fatphobic society where like, would I have swiped on me when I was fat, you know? Like me now, if I saw like me as a fat girl without knowing it was me as a fat girl, would I swipe? I mean, I wouldn't swipe on myself as I am now either. But you know, like in like some other world where I'm not me, would I swipe on skinny me or fat me? Or both? It's a good question. But I also wonder, if I were someone who shows my body off a bit more, if I was someone who is a bit, I mean, it's a mixture of just I enjoy modesty and I am a little insecure about how I look. But if I showed you my body, would you still think I'm like pretty, you know? Like, I've got loose skin, I was a fat person. My body ain't the way it should be. And I'm working on loving it and like being who I am and just accepting shit. But you know, like, it's very easy when I'm in like jeans and a nice top for people to be like, yeah, she looks good, she's lost loads of weight, she's skinny now. Would you still be thinking that if you saw me like in a bikini? You know, I think I get sort of especially stuck on it, because I had that horrible phase where I'd like first started to like settle around where I am now. Like maybe I'd sort of hit like the size 12 to 14 and that was just sort of where it stopped and where I am now. I still fluctuate up and down a little bit, but you know, it's in that range. I don't know what I was talking about. I do remember what I was talking about. I'd first hit that sort of like size 12 to 14 range and realised like that I was like a normal size, you know? Like the 18 to 16 range was okay, because I was like, oh my god, I can shop in real shops again. And then like I didn't really shop for a while because I bought a few things and I was like, I don't got money. So I didn't shop at all really again until I'd hit like where I was like, oh, I'm not losing any more weight. And once I'd hit that was when I started looking around at people and be like, well, you could lose some weight, couldn't you? Like, you're a big person, you could stand to lose a little weight. And I did that for months. Like, I thought the most horrible things about fat people in my head when I walked past them on the street. And it was fucking horrible. Like, it didn't do any good for me, because it just meant that I was so embarrassed of having ever like been fat at any point. I wanted to like wipe every picture off the internet and like burn everything to make sure no one would ever know that I was one of those fat people. And then there was like just like the judgments I was making about other people that were, it sounds horrible calling them fat people, I know, but like I said, I'm just using it as a descriptor. It's nothing negative, and I'm sorry if you're offended, don't watch my videos, like, ugh. But it was, I was like that for like a good few months when I was suddenly like, oh, is that what people were thinking about me? Like when I was just trying to go about my life, when I was like going to McDonald's for the first time in a month because I'd been depressed for the whole month and barely eaten anything, I was like, I'm gonna get a Big Mac and finally be happy, only for someone to shit all over me because I was a size 22. Those were the same thoughts that guy was having. They were the same thoughts that the guy in the fucking queue for Burger King that tapped me on the shoulder and asked, do you really think you need to be here, love? Same thoughts he was having. And I was so angry at myself. You know, and we see it from lots of places, that fucking... when people have lost weight and suddenly we're so much better than everyone else because we lost weight. And I was really into that for a few months and I hate it now. I really fucking hate it now. It grosses me out to no fucking end because it's like, God, it's just a fucking body. Like, it's literally just a body. It's not even my body, so I don't even need to worry about it in the first place. But secondly, what someone's body looks like, how it moves, how it's shaped, has no fucking meaning towards who they are as a person. You know, like that fat person that I was thinking horrible things about in my head, they could have told me a joke that would have made me laugh like no other. They could have said something to me that made me feel better than anyone else ever had. And I wouldn't have given them the chance because I was just like, you're fat, I'm better than you, I've lost weight. And it's so gross. But we live in a society that does really like breed that kind of mentality, you know, like even from people who were like the place I was working in at this point had a like sort of dance business area that I wasn't involved in. It was just in the building, you know. But the women in that were obviously quite aware of like body positivity and not making people feel bad, you know. They were really nice ladies. But even they'd be like, oh my God, you've lost loads of weight, you look amazing. You know, and things like that are just more validation of like, that's right, I lost weight, I'm so fucking great for it. Fat people, like, beware, I'm better than you now. You know, and it comes from so many places, this like, congratulations, well done, you've done best, you've done better, like, well done you. And it's so gross. And especially when I wasn't actually trying to like lose weight and it was just sort of happening. You know, I knew why it was happening. I had a more active job, I'd recently gone vegan, it wasn't like medical mystery, someone help me. But I wasn't like putting the time in at the gym and tracking my calories or anything, you know, it was just a lifestyle change that worked. But we're in a society where like so often you have people telling people like, just don't eat the burger, just put down the fork, just do this. And everyone talks about how difficult weight loss is, and I wasn't really struggling with it at that point. So I was just like, oh, I've nailed it, I'm so good, I'm so great. And that's especially bullshit when you think about the fact that like, I was at least 20, 21 when I actually started losing weight, and I'd been overweight my entire life. My teen years had been spent pretty much with an eating disorder, definitely disordered eating, because I was desperate to lose weight to be pretty, and it never fucking worked. I did every fucking crash diet and fucking Weight Watchers and fucking Slimming World and all the bullshit you can think of. I'd lose a few pounds here and put a few pounds on there and lose a few pounds here. You know, it did not fucking work. And yet suddenly I had the mentality of like, just go to Weight Watchers. It's bizarre. And it's one of those things where as soon as I noticed, it was like an immediate wake up call, and I pretty much just like trained myself near enough overnight. Like it was within weeks that I was back to like not thinking horrible fucking shitty judgments about people, because don't do that, it's horrible. Yeah, I've said before, these videos are almost like therapy. Like I figure out so much while I'm making these videos, and I think I've just figured out that a good amount of it is that I sort of don't feel like I know where I belong in terms of like the body positivity movement anymore. Because I went with mid-size for a good while, and then I got comments on Instagram telling me I was too skinny, and it's one of those where it's like, okay, like, I'm not that skinny for a start, so, like, I'm not a size 8, I'm not a size 0, you know, I'm a size 12 to 14, it's a perfectly normal, average, ordinary, helpful size to be at. Secondly, it's a case of like, well, if you want to put me with the skinny people, they've got like the sexy little washboard abs and shit, and I've got loose skin. I'm not one of them. But I also fully understand that putting myself with like the plus size people isn't fair, because I no longer face the struggles that they fucking face. I might be aware of them, I might have been through them, but I'm not there now. So I like, what, I'm gonna listen and be like, oh yeah, that did suck. So glad I don't have to do that now. Like, no. I feel like there's probably a lot of people that want to lose weight and don't because of the body positivity movements. Because there is this vibe of like, you're with us or against us. Like if you lose weight, if you're skinny all of a sudden, you're against us now. I'm like, no, I'm not. I very much think that everyone deserves to feel like happy and safe and comfortable in their own body and beautiful as well. And you know, like losing weight sure as fuck didn't do that for me. I'm still having to work just as hard on trying to like myself as I did when I was fat. It's made, like honestly, to me as a person, losing weight has made very little difference to like me. But the difference it makes to how I'm like perceived by people and approached like by people and like my standing in society, I suppose, like just, it's fucking insane to me that my body and like does that, you know? Like literally the amount of fat my body holds at any given moment affects all of that. It's ridiculous and it's pathetic. I really don't have any words left because I have just gotten to a point where I'm like, God, we really just judge people based on the amount of fat that their body's holding at any given moment. Like, fuck. I would love to hear any opinions that anyone else has on this. As you can hear from the whole video, my opinions are very loosely formed and mostly like, I thought this thing one time and one other time I thought this thing. Like, I'd like to think I've put enough thought into it that this is at least an interesting video, but I feel like a lot of you will definitely have better things to say than I do. You usually do, and I'd love to hear them in the comments. Please do remember to like and subscribe. Do I have anything else on it? Like, I hate promoting stuff at the end of videos. I still think if you wanted to subscribe, you'd subscribe. But then people are always like, if you don't ask them, they don't remember. And I'm sort of just like, I don't think people that stupid are watching my videos. If you had only subscribed because I told you to, I'm really sorry that I just called you stupid. I didn't mean it at all. You're actually really smart for subscribing to me. Oh, this feels like the party where I started telling some guy about how like mathematicians were all Tories, and he really let me go on a while before telling me he was a mathematician. But yeah, so whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year. God knows this year's been the fucking worst of my life. But thank you for hanging around, because y'all really cheer me up. I really like reading the comments, and like sometimes I go and look at like your YouTube channels and see what you lot have going on, and like if you've got any social media connected, I go and have a little look at your Instagrams and stuff. I can't believe you're real people that like actually are subscribed and have thoughts based on what I've spewed at the camera. I don't know why I'm continuing talking. I fucking finished the video. I'll see you in a few days.